Now, I'm really happy to be here. My name is Octavio Kulesz. I am a digital publisher, a philosopher, researcher, and I am Argentinian, but right now I'm based in Turin, in Italy. And I am the director of Teseo, which is an electronic publishing house. And also as a researcher, I work on topics related to digital technologies and cultural diversity, and mainly now on the impact of artificial intelligence on the cultural sectors. I had the opportunity to be part of the expert group that drafted the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI, which is the first global instrument in this the key area. So I will share my screen. And so the title of today's workshop is From Paper to Algorithms, Artificial Intelligence and Bibliodiversity. How can we define artificial intelligence? There are many types of definitions, but let me just start by reading the definitions of two very important entities. One is UNESCO, so it's a multilateral organization gathering almost 200 member states, so this is public sector. And the other definition comes from Google. We will see it later, so from private sector. UNESCO defines AI as those systems possessing the capacity to process data and information in a way that resembles intelligent behavior and typically includes aspects of reasoning, learning, perception, prediction, planning, or control. In Google's definition, AI is presented as a set of technologies that enable computers to perform a variety of advanced functions, including the ability to see, understand, and translate spoken and written language, analyze data, make recommendations, and more. So as we can see in these two definitions, UNESCO's and Google's, in the first case, AI is presented as a group of systems that have special capacities, cognitive capacities to operate in areas such as reasoning, learning, perception, and other types of applications. And in the other case, in Google's definition, they are presented as a set of technologies that can also perform a variety of functions. Again, written language, data, recommendation, etc. So in both cases, as we can see, and this is private sector and public sector at the same time, the idea is that AI is not a sort of monolithical entity that has full autonomy or that is presented as a superintelligence, but rather AI is described as a group of technologies or as a group of systems that can perform specific tasks. And it's important to see that AI is not new as a discipline. Indeed, it has been around for several decades. We could say that the starting point for this discipline of artificial intelligence, or a group of disciplines, could be traced back as early as the 1950s, especially with the research conducted by Alan Turing in the UK, and especially with the workshop that took place in Dartmouth in the US in 1956, where the big minds of computing and information science gathered together in that summer of 1956 to discuss the future of artificial intelligence. And these minds were for example, Marvin Minsky, John McCarthy, and more. And since then, AI has gone through what we could describe as AI summers and AI winters. That is to say, AI booms and later periods of decline, winters. So, for example, in the 60s and 70s and early 70s were a period of expansion, but then the 80s were not particularly brilliant for the development and research in AI. In those times, in the whole 20th century and the very beginning of the 21st century, most of the AI systems worked with predefined rules set by the developers of the systems. So the developer, the programmer would predefine some group of rules, and then the machine will carry out some specific tasks. Or they could also work with a certain degree of randomness. But the situation changes a lot with the advent of machine learning. And in this subset of artificial intelligence, the machine does not work necessarily with a predefined set of rules, but rather with data that is introduced in the system. It's the input of machine learning systems, and that will feed the machine, will train the machine so that the machine can later produce a result, the output. This is basically a very brief description of how machine learning works, in contrast with the previous type of AI systems. And a subset of machine learning is deep learning. Deep learning works also with an input made of data, but the processing of that input relies on artificial neural networks. So layers of neural networks that mimic the human brain, or in general, the animal's brain. This type of AI systems became particularly important in the second decade of the century, in the 2010s. And in general, whenever we deal with a deep learning system, it's important to see that the more parameters it has, so the more connections or synapses in the neural networks it has, the more powerful it will be in general. And also, in terms of data, the more data we have to feed or to train the algorithms, also the more accurate and the more powerful the system will be. And I would like to introduce three very important concepts in deep learning that will be very helpful later for the second part of the workshop, which is related to AI ethics. First term, transparency. You know, deep learning is such a complex technology that sometimes the very developers of the system they don't really know how the system or why the system has reached a specific result. So working in terms of transparency or having more transparency means investing more in trying to know how the system works internally. And then more explainability means better understanding why the system has given a specific result. So to explain why the system has reached that result, that's explainability. And accountability means to be able to identify what person or people were responsible of that specific result, especially when there are unintended consequences in an AI system. Generative AI is, again, a subset of deep learning. So we had artificial intelligence as the big a group of disciplines. A first subset is machine learning. Inside, we have deep learning, and inside, in turn, we have generative AI that gain momentum, especially in the late 2010s or early 2020s, mainly with the transformer model. That is a new type of architecture that allowed. Sorry, one second. Sorry, I'm back. Someone was ringing the bell. And so the transformer model is a new type of architecture that was introduced in 2017, where a group of researchers from Google presented a formidable advance in NLP, so in natural language processing, that is the basis for what we know today as large language models, LLMs. So I will say a few words about LLMs now. LLMs are the systems behind ChatGPT and other conversational bots. And basically what they do is to allow the users to predict the next word in a sequence, the next word in a sentence. So if I say, for example, London is a, and I leave that to the LLM will continue will make some calculations and will say London is a city located in the UK, etc., etc. So thanks to these calculations and probabilistic methods, it will be able to predict the next word in a sentence. And the researchers discovered that LLMs are not only able to predict the next word, but also able to write new text, so generate new text, generate summaries, to classify different types of text, and even to code, so to write code in Python, in other programming languages. And whenever we work, I'm sure that maybe many of you have already worked with ChatGPT, Claude, and other bots, but it's important to know that you always need to write a prompt. So this is the input for the AI system, and then this system will give you an output. And please don't hesitate to send any comments or questions via the chat, and we'll see them later once we finish. So now, in terms of the technical limitations of LLMs, LLMs are not perfect, far from that. They have many, many technical limitations. One is the problem of hallucinations. So the AI systems can produce false content, so factual errors everywhere. So we have to be very careful here. They can be biased because the data, especially because of the data that has been used to feed the system, is generally biased. It's not representative of the society where the system will be deployed. And this is another limitation. And a third big limitation, technical limitation of AI systems, of LLM specifically, is that they tend to work much better with high resource languages than with low resource languages. High resource languages are languages such as English. English is the king of high resource languages because we have plenty of data, both in text, in audio format, in all sorts of formats. And then we have Spanish and French, which are high resource languages. But most of human languages today are considered low resource languages. That doesn't mean necessarily that they are spoken by few people, but it rather implies that we don't have enough data sets in those languages to train AI systems. For example, Swahili, the African language, is spoken by more than 150 million people, almost 200 million people, but it's still a low resource language. We don't have abundant data to feed AI systems in Swahili. So there is an imbalance here between high resource languages and low resource languages in these LLMs. So that's for LLMs. We also have diffusion models for the generation of images, and maybe you know DALL-E by OpenAI, you know Midjourney or Stable Diffusion. There are AI systems such as Sora to generate videos. It's pretty remarkable. You can see some samples on YouTube. And systems such as Ava, Udio to generate music. So a person with no skills whatsoever in music orchestration or arrangement can generate a symphony. And this is quite impressive. And as you can see, AI is being used not just to create text, but to create all sorts of formats and content in audio format. This includes TTS, which is text to speech, or conversely, speech to text. They can also create image and video, as we saw. So this is the idea of the multimodality of AI models right now, or generative AI models. You can write a prompt in text to generate an image or to generate a song, but it can also work the other way around. Like I can upload to ChatGPT an image, and then ChatGPT will describe the image in text. So this is the idea of multimodality. The next steps in the AI field is, without any doubt, I think, the explosion of and the proliferation of AI assistants everywhere. Because if you can enter text and get video, or you can enter image and get text, and all the possible combinations, it means that we will soon have, and as OpenAI has last week launched its ChatGPT 4.0 version, and this is clearly a step towards this trend. So the proliferation of AI assistants, we will have in our phone a personal assistant running on AI with whom we will be able to speak, to write, etc., to get any sort of information. And the second trend, quite related to the first one, is the proliferation of AI agents. So we will have AI agents. That means systems that will be able not just to give us an answer as an assistant, but also to perform a task on the web. For example, to book a flight, to book a hotel, to speak with the AI agent of another person, to negotiate. So this will be more and more interactive and more complex. A few final elements in this first part of the presentation, which is an introduction to the world of AI, has to do with the distinction between open models and closed models. As you may know, an AI system can have you can have the developer delivering the data and the algorithms. And sorry, I lost the 1 second again. Sorry. The AI system, you can have the developer delivering the model and delivering the data for free. And whenever, for example, when you have a diffusion model, like stable diffusion, you can download the code and you can even get data to train the machine. This is an open system. So you have access to the algorithms and you have access to the data set. In contrast, you can have closed models where you don't have access to the algorithms and you don't have access to the data. OpenAI with ChatGPT is not open, so it's quite an irony because in its origins, OpenAI was trying to build something like open and usable by everyone, but little by little they started to develop purely proprietary models. So OpenAI is not open. And who are the main actors here in the AI field? You will see that OpenAI or others such as Anthropic, Inflection, these are American companies based in Silicon Valley. You can also have DeepMind. It's a British company that was later acquired by Google. Mistral, it's a French startup. Aleph Alpha, a German one. And then we have plenty of Chinese startups working in AI, such as 01.ai or Baichuan and many others. And these startups rely on funding because you need a lot of money to work and on research and development in AI. The money comes generally from big tech companies, mainly from Microsoft, Google or Alphabet, Facebook or Meta, Amazon, X or Twitter, Apple, and also from China, Baidu, ByteDance, Alibaba, Tencent, Huawei, and the chip maker NVIDIA. So this is a very brief overview of the global landscape and the main trends in AI that are having an impact on the publishing sector. What are the ethical and legal challenges of these systems? And we enter here part 2. In the next part, in part 3, we will be able to do some experiments, very specific experiments with these tools, and especially in the field of publishing and editing. So there are huge opportunities, as we know, if you use ChatGPT or Midjourney or any other tool. Many artists say that they have the feeling that their creativity is augmented, increased. So it's the idea of the augmented artist. Lower barriers to entry because people, as I mentioned before, people with no knowledge whatsoever in music arrangements or in literature can compose a symphony or can write a novel. Of course, there will be a lot of challenges that we will see later, but let's speak now about the opportunities. Productivity leap because we are able to do much more with less. So in a few seconds, even we can carry out a task that would have normally taken days or weeks. Creation of new skilled jobs. Indeed, there are new positions and jobs that are being created, and these are highly qualified jobs. And for the public, the big advantage is that they have access to not millions of novels now, if we think of the publishing sector, but maybe one day to billions of novels, essays, short stories, etc. So an explosion of cultural offerings. But of course, the situation is not that simple because there are many obstacles and dangers and threats here. One big problem is related to intellectual property and specifically to copyright. Because who is the owner or who is the rights holder of the output of an AI system? Whenever I use Midjourney to create an image, who is the owner? Can I use that image? Is that my image? Big issues here. And related to this is the problem of the compensation for creators and the attribution. So as we saw, most of deep learning systems, you need data to be trained. And that data is composed of millions of cultural expressions. So texts, songs, videos, and so on. And these cultural expressions have creators. They have been created by artists, by general users, and so on. So is there a compensation for them each time we feed the machine with that content to create a new work? Well, no, not yet. So there is a big problem here. And while AI can uh, allow the creation of highly qualified jobs, it's also enabling the destruction of jobs. Imagine in our publishing sectors, the competition that these professionals are facing from the field of AI, translators, proofreaders, web content creators, illustrators, photographers, designers. We can see more and more how many of these professions are in danger. Lack of skills. No, not everyone in the publishing sectors and in general in the cultural sectors have the necessary skills to A, use these basic tools such as ChatGPT. Not everyone knows how to use it. And B, to know how to deploy their own deep learning system. So how to feed the machine with data and in order to have a personalized solution. So there is a clear lack of skills in the industry in terms of AI. A lack of data. We need data to feed our own systems. And the problem is that data is in the hands of very powerful platforms, such as those I mentioned before. This is also related to the problem of economic concentration. It's been proved recently that LLMs, large language models, tend to produce a situation where the winner takes all. So there are economies of scales where, and we can see it now, OpenAI with ChatGPT is becoming unbeatable. So many other rivals went bust or just disappeared. One example is Inflection with its chatbot Pi. It was simply acquired by Microsoft because they were not able to compete against ChatGPT. And the problem here is that we will have stronger monopolies or oligopolies, and that we are heading towards a sort of techno-feudalism. This is a word coined by Yanis Varoufakis, the Greek economist. So we have these large corporations such as Microsoft, Alphabet, Google, and the others, where you can live inside, you can exchange, interact, buy, sell, but you are still inside a sort of fortress, a medieval fortress. North-south imbalances as well, because now we still have a very serious digital divide where almost 30% of the global population has no access to internet and digital tools. But the incorporation of AI, the massive integration of AI in our daily lives, will lead to a new type of problem, which is not just the digital divide, and the digital divide is reversible as long as people have access to devices and skills, but a new type of divide, which is likely irreversible, which is the creative divide, where people in the global north will be much more creative because they have access to these powerful AI tools. They will be much more creative than people in the global south. Another problem, big problem that I slightly mentioned before, the problem of biases and stereotypes. These systems, LLMs, image creation systems, and all other AI systems using deep learning and data are biased, mainly because of the data that was used to feed them. So we will be able to find a number of gender biases, biases related to ethnicity, to religion, to politics. We will see, if we have time, we will see many examples later. Now, the discoverability of local content online is also affected by AI systems. Even this happened even before the current wave of generative AI, because recommendation algorithms, as we know, are generally quite opaque. They lack transparency, and we don't know why uh, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and other platforms are recommending some content and not some other content. And in general, local content, local creations have lower visibility in these platforms. So this is another problem exacerbated by AI. We have here also the issue of misinformation and disinformation. We know that this year, 2024, is a year of elections almost in half of, I think 40% of the population in the world will vote this year. And many have already voted, but so it's clearly it will be a turning point, because we are already seeing how AI is being used to create fake news, to manipulate the societies and so on. So misinformation, false content, and disinformation, uh, fake news and manipulation of the masses using AI. Another problem, the perfect bubble. It's the idea that, you know, the expression, the filter bubbles that was coined by Eli Pariser in 2010. And Pariser meant by this that uh, recommendation algorithms and social media in general tend to mm, like create closed communities that don't have a conversation between them or among them. So this is very clear in politics, but also in sports. So people following a certain team, they have little contact on the web with people following another team, let's say a football team or whatever. And in the political sphere, this is quite clear and quite serious in general. So people voting for some candidates literally live in a different universe than people voting for another candidate. And the problem is that with generative AI, the filter bubbles may become perfect bubbles that are not and like reducing us in or limiting our interactions into a specific community, but rather creating content that was specifically generated for us as individuals. So it's a perfect bubble in the sense that it will be, we won't have maybe a shared the notion of a shared culture anymore, but rather the sum of millions of isolated individuals consuming personalized culture. This is an extreme situation, but I think there are many signs that are pointing towards this problem. And if I mentioned before that a technical limitation of LLMs has to do with the imbalance between high resource languages and low resource languages, it's clear that English is the lingua franca of AI, not just in terms of the resources like data sets or annotated text, but also in that it's the language of communication for the AI community. So most papers are written in English, and most conferences are also delivered in English, and so on. And all these elements, both technical and societal, may lead to a situation where some low resource languages face the risk of extinction, of erasure. This is quite documented. And of course, it's an extremely dangerous for cultural diversity and for our work as publishers. And speaking of diversity, I have almost finished with the second part. There is a clear lack of diversity in the AI field. Most AI developers and researchers and startuppers are young men, and they are in general engineers. They don't come from artistic background. They don't come from human or social sciences. They come from data science. Also, a serious gender imbalance in all the AI industry. Just 15%, at most 20% in some companies of the workforce is made of women. So most of them are young men, and a lack of interculturality, so lack of real cultural diversity within the working teams. So if we take Silicon Valley, these are young men, male, white. So the problem is that there is no real diversity, so no cultural diversity, no ethnic diversity in the working teams. And in terms of the environment, just to give you an idea, Google's AI in a few years will consume as much electricity as Ireland. And it's being predicted that in the next few years also, AI will almost double its emissions in CO2. Geopolitical tensions are rising between USA and China, a new Cold War in the making, and the global South, for many of us, our countries will be just vassal states of these two giants. But in any case, there are many regulations that have been created in the last years to work in these areas, very complex areas. The US, they have delivered the executive order last year, which is a very, very important piece of legislation to mitigate the biases, to avoid the creation of monopolies. And this has a lot to do with public agencies, but also with private sector. China, as well, in the last year, has produced a number of regulations, especially in the field of deep learning and deep fakes and generative AI. The EU also with its AI Act, adopted in March this year. UNESCO with its recommendation on the ethics of AI, which is the only global instrument in the field of AI that includes a specific chapter on culture. And last but not least, the UN also this year, a couple of months ago, the UN has approved its resolution on a safe, secure, and trustworthy AI. So in the future, it's quite possible, it's almost sure that we will see an acceleration in the AI field, and AI will have an increasing impact on cultural industries, including publishing, of course. And the key will be how to harness the benefits and how to mitigate the challenges. So how we can walk in this middle path between the opportunities and the challenges. We will need more training. This is clear. We will need more skills with basic tools and with more advanced tools in AI, especially in deep learning. We will have to work more collaboratively with tech actors, not just big tech companies, but also smaller startups, AI labs in universities, and so on. And I believe that in the publishing sector, we need to have a stronger voice in the development of national AI plans. Most countries now are designing AI agendas, AI strategies, AI plans, And in general, the cultural sectors and especially the publishing sector is not really they don't have a strong voice in the design of these plans, and we should be more active in this area. So that's it for the challenges, and we can move. We still have 15 minutes or so. We can move on to the third part, practical exercises with generative AI. Sorry, let me just mention the. I will share again my screen. Let me mention the list of exercises that we can work on now, and then I will share my screen again. So the first group of exercises has to do with these tasks. You know that before LLMs, before generative AI was already being used in publishing. For example, to create personalized recommendations. It was used for sales prediction, for plagiarism detection, price optimization, text-to-speech and speech-to-text, and even translation. These systems were working with AI. But now with the advent of generative AI, we are able to create automatic summaries of texts. We can work on text classification, for example, to see whether, ask the system whether this text is literature or an essay or poetry or theater, and we can ask the system about what code in the Dewey classification decimal code this text could have, and so on. So text classification. We can create posts for social networks. We can use LLMs to brainstorm. Suppose you are a writer and you need more ideas, or you need to get inspiration for your next novel. We can rewrite passages. We can get the sentiment analysis. Is this novel sad or optimistic, etc.? Book title recommendations. It's quite useful. We can write blurbs, extract keywords, and also work on translations. LLMs are getting very, very powerful in translation. We will also see a few examples of image creation using DALL-E or Midjourney, and we will try to create the image of a cover with Midjourney, and we will see how the system performs and what challenges it faces. And a second example, we will analyze an existing cover using ChatGPT. So let me change my screen. I will switch to ChatGPT, and we will start working on these exercises. 1 second, I'm here. I guess you can see my screen here in ChatGPT, right? So I'm on my ChatGPT 4.0, which is the latest version. This is not the free version, but you can still use the free version on chatgpt.com. It's free and you don't need to register now. You will be using the 3.5 version by default. So let's work on text summarization, automatic summaries. We can go, for example, let me go to Project Gutenberg. Where I can find many free ebooks, public domain in general. So I will select any of these books that are here in the main page. Suppose, let's say, well, ideally one in English. this one, the robbers cave. And I will select this option so that I can see the whole text online. The full book is here in a single page. So if I go to ChatGPT and I paste, I can select everything, then copy. If I copy this on ChatGPT, you'll have the full text here. But ChatGPT won't work because it has limits on the plain text that I can copy here. I should first create a Word file and then copy here the Word file. So, but for the sake of brevity, let's go to another LLM, which is Claude. And that does allow me to paste the content here. You will see it has converted it into a sort of file here. And I will add a prompt, like summarize this book. It will take a few seconds, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I'm sure you have already played with these systems, but it's always interesting to try it again. And a few more seconds, that's it. So you see that the summary is quite good. It's short, clear, and it took the information. I chose this text because in general, if you choose, I don't know, the Iliad or other classics, it maybe you never know whether the LLM is taking the input from the text that you copy pasted or from its own data set. So here I used a text that is not as known as the Iliad or other classics. I can also ask Claude to now, or let's say shorter. Maybe this is too long. I need just a couple of paragraphs, and that's it. I have a shorter summary and quite accurate. I can ask him now write a blurb, which is not exactly a summary because it needs to be more like interesting for the reader. Well, it's a sort of blurb. It could be longer, and it could add the biography of the author, etc. I can ask. Let me paste again the content just to make sure it's still working with the original text. I can extract 10 keywords words from this text. And this is very useful whenever we need to work on metadata, you know, in general, the platforms ask for keywords, and here we can extract them very easily. We will see what Claude says. Yes, definitely a long text. So that's it. The 10 keywords. Very good. Now, write a post for Facebook about this text, this book. Include emojis. It's usually a bit faster, but well, I find it very good. I don't know about you, but I could have asked Claude to write it from the perspective of a publisher, because here it's writing the post from the perspective of a reader. But I can ask him that, and it will work quite well. And I can let me just copy this. I will go to ChatGPT because it's faster. I will copy this. I will go to ChatGPT here, and I will paste the one of the summaries, and then traduit en français, even with a typo, because it's you can ChatGPT will even understand even if your prompt has typos. It's quite good. I may find maybe there are some anglicisms and like very some structures that are not fully uh, readable in French, but it's very good in general. And now I can ask ChatGPT create an image. I will say something very general about that story. I won't mention it's a book because the problem is that if I say create an image for this book or for the cover of this book, ChatGPT will understand that I want to create the cover of the book itself. So it will give me the cover with the letters and so this is an illustration. So this is an image that is illustrating the summary I just entered before. You can see it's not perfect. It has some small bags here. Maybe, I don't know if this is a hand or something, but it's quite good. So I can restart and I can even edit the image. For example, let's say I don't like um, some part here. This is not clear. I don't like it. I I will ask ChatGPT to edit that section, putting, for example, I don't know, where I will write table, so that maybe let's see where it goes. It's creating a new one. And that's it. It created a new one here. It finished the table. This is what it understood. So it's basically, we need to iterate on the image until we have the result we are looking for. But you see, it's very, very, very powerful. And I could do this in different systems. I will close this tab. I'll go, I'll copy also, I'm not sure if this will work, but let me go to Midjourney, which is another system to create images. I will paste here directly as a prompt, the summary. I don't know what the result will be here, honestly. So it's starting here. It will take a few seconds. And while Midjourney works on the image, I will go back to ChatGPT and I will ask ChatGPT now suggest a title for the story, because I didn't tell ChatGPT that this comes from a book, title and subtitle. Oh, well, see, yeah, he knows it's from the Robbers Cave. As another title for the story. Shadows of Calabria is not bad. And with a subtitle here. And I can download the original cover on my computer, and I will ask ChatGPT to tell me what it thinks, not he thinks, but what it thinks about the original cover. What do you think of this cover? Classic and vintage. So monochromatic illustration, it sees everything. So this is computer vision. So multimodal, as I mentioned before, I uploaded an image and I got a text. Typography is simple and straightforward. Uh, I could ask it many other, well, strengths, areas for improvement. This was what I was looking for. The color scheme, we can improve it. The typography, and adding more details and so on. So it's really, really useful. And let's see now Midjourney. This is a scene created by Midjourney about the book, because I used the summary created by Claude, and I pasted it here. So one image, another image, another one. I can change the style, I can change the aspect, so in order to have a vertical image or a horizontal image and so on. So these are very, very powerful tools. So we could go on and on for hours in using these tools to do some experiments. In fact, last week with the Alliance, we were together with Laurence and the team in Rabat in Morocco for a full day seminar on AI and publishing using these tools. And so it's really, really a huge, huge area. So that's it for my presentation. And now we can discuss a bit more about if you have any comments or observations. I will stop my screen and thank you very much.